This morning, a date in court for Ben Lightsey, the man now accused of killing his wife, Melissa, his father, a former candidate for sheriff in St. Johns County.
She disappeared off the coast of Volcano Beach back on November 8th. Her body discovered at the St. Augustine Inlet the next day. Now her husband has an 8:30 first appearance in court.
Channel 4's Steve Douglas joins us live in St. Augustine with the very latest on this. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Bruce and Stacy. In a little more than an hour, Ben Lightsey will go before a judge for the first time since turning himself in on charges of first-degree murder yesterday. Sheriff's deputies obtained a warrant for his arrest on those charges 2 days ago. When they went to go serve that warrant yesterday, they found he wasn't home. He turned himself in a couple of hours later. Now, that court appearance is not going to address bond. He is not eligible for bond because he is being charged with the first-degree murder of his wife. What it will determine is if he understands those charges, what his legal representation will be, whether it's a private attorney or public defender, and then it'll address an arraignment date where he will enter a plea to those charges. Now, Melissa Lightsey disappeared off the coast of Volcano Beach at Surfside Park on Sunday, November 9th around midnight after Ben says the couple attended a wedding reception in downtown St. Augustine. Police searched for about 2 days before they found her body in the water, but once a medical examiner did an autopsy, it was determined that she didn't die from drowning or anything related to going swimming. Instead, trauma to the head, face, and neck. And the medical examiner ruled her death was, in fact, a homicide. After about 9 or 10 days investigating, that's when sheriff's deputies obtained that arrest warrant. And then, of course, Ben Lightsey turned himself in yesterday. Now, even though an arrest has been made in this case, Sheriff David Shore says it's a long way from being complete.
The stakes are extremely high. A young woman was brutally murdered a week ago in our county, leaving 2 children as orphans. There's no case that's more important to law enforcement than a case like this. So we want to be very careful, we want to be diligent, we want to be methodical, and we want to be thorough.
Now, we will be in the courtroom for that 8:30 first appearance here at the St. Johns County Jail. We'll bring you the latest information on the news at noon. We are live in St. Johns County. Steve Douglas, Channel 4, the local station.
Thank you, Steve. For more on the case against Lightsey and what the defense might do in this high-profile murder, we turn to Curtis Fallgatter. He's spent 17 years with the U.S. Attorney's Office before becoming one of the most highly regarded criminal defense lawyers in Northeast Florida. Curtis, nice to have you here this morning.
Thanks,
You're a defense attorney. What angles are you looking at this case from? What are you doing to build your case at this point?
Well, you know, there's 2 key aspects of a homicide case. First, they got to prove it's a homicide, which means not an accidental death, but an intentional. That's going to implicate the medical examiner's report, a lot of scientific evidence, and I hear that they say that the death was a result of some blunt trauma, not a result of swimming, but could that trauma have been in the water versus before she got in the water?
So you're saying perhaps once she entered the water that she could have gotten some trauma from a boat or something else?
Accident, hit her head on rocks, diving, jumping into the surf, you know, a lot of ways you get hurt. Looking at the medical examiner's report, perhaps it'll say the time of death, but to get that down to a minute or a half hour, an hour may be very difficult. So as a lawyer, you're going to want to look at that.
That's tough, and it's also tough that her body was soaking in salt water for quite some time.
Several hours. That'll affect the accuracy of the reports. There's likely to be some disputes from the experts as to what all that means.
Okay, so besides the medical examiner's report, what are you looking at?
Second thing you're looking at, of course, is who's the person that did it. And, you know, he was last seen with her, of course, but does that mean he is the suspect? Could there not be other folks? And, of course, could it perhaps have been accidental blunt trauma? They suggest that was perpetrated by someone else, but could not have been a boat or, as I say, hitting her head on a rock. You know, you're going to want to look at other explanations for that blunt trauma. And, of course, alibis, perhaps by him.
Doesn't the fact that he said he was with her at the park when she supposedly entered the water, I mean, doesn't that...
That'll certainly connect him to the time frame, which is why I say the medical examiner's report as to the time of death is going to be pretty crucial, because if by chance it's prior to that midnight claim of his, it's going to look more likely that he's the source. They're also doing examinations apparently of cars. If, in fact, the injury occurred away from the beach and in somebody's automobile, there may be some scientific evidence there that will help the state or possibly help the defense.
Help the defense. Ben Lightsey is the son of a former sheriff's candidate, Glenn Lightsey. Will that hurt or help his chances of getting a fair trial?
It's hard. I think it could go either way. Obviously, a well-respected family, and so, you know, folks are going to want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Very serious homicide. Folks are going to look at that very carefully. I think it's a wash.
It's a wash there. And let me ask you about some of the media attention that this has gotten. There have been reports from a woman who claims that she used to date Ben Lightsey, who says that he was abusive to her. Obviously, that has not been verified by police. I don't believe a police report was ever filed on that. Potential jurors out there seeing that, can a defense attorney go and say, hey, this is out there, I want to change a venue, I want to move this out of the area?
That'd be one of the reasons. You look at all the reasons. You look at the publicity, you look at his relationship with the father, candidate for an official office down there, a lot of high-profile aspects to that. So as a lawyer, defense lawyer, you'd look at all that, put together a packet of media reports, and consider a change of venue. But maybe you don't want it. If you're the defense lawyer and you think the family has a good reputation in that town, maybe you want to try it right there.
Good information. Curtis Fallgatter, defense attorney here in Northeast Florida. Thanks so much for giving us your insight on the Lightsey case. We've got continuing coverage of Ben Lightsey's day in court. Another update in the next hour. And at noon, new details of his appearance before a judge. If you'd like more information on this story anytime, head to news4jax.com. Meantime, Bruce's